Hello,
Hey,
everyone.
hey, we're
Hello.
live. Welcome to Cool Capitalist Stream. Today we are being hosted by Esoteric Entity because YouTube put a copyright strike on me because they decided that you're not allowed to watch hilarious parodies of movies.
Yeah, so for those of you who didn't watch our election special, we did not actually cover the election. Instead, that was just a group viewing of the hilarious Chinese bootleg of the third Star Wars movie. Well, episode 3, but it's actually the sixth movie. And I mean, just the title of it should tell you like the level of English that we're dealing with.
I,
Um, Star War, The Third Gathering, Backstroke of the West. That was the title.
I think it was Third Gathers, wasn't it?
No,
Yeah,
it
it was-
was Gathering.
Yeah.
sorry,
No, it was Third Gathers.
sorry guys.
Whatever point is that it was
It's hilarious. Either way.
And anyway, so we were just watching this video live on our stream. It's been up on YouTube since February of 2016 and has 1.7 million views. And our 10 minutes into the stream, our Filthy got a copyright strike on his channel by Disney for hosting that content. So
Boo!
yeah, we're being, I mean, I don't know how else you take that other than we're being selectively targeted by YouTube. And I recently uncovered solid proof today that YouTube is manually removing views from my channel. It seems like we're being targeted disproportionately more, like even than some of the other bigger skeptic channels. Like they don't even want us to take off in the first place.
They know we're a threat. That's why.
Well, yeah, that's the reason why. The other channels, they sort of parrot talking points like Sargon, Styx. Yeah, they're being throttled, but they're only really. I have a theory. I think they're only really being throttled slightly, so that they can perpetuate the narrative that they're being censored because they indeed are, so that Google, Facebook, and Twitter can get an established monopoly in law from the U.S. government. And yeah, the actual threats, they just straight up make it so we don't show up at all.
Yeah, they're already going after Gab.
Well, they destroyed Gab.
But it came back. I got an email the other day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's back online right now. I mean, I'm still going to use Gab for the time being because it's basically the second biggest platform next to Twitter. Because I've left Twitter entirely. I have like an account I basically just use to message people who are still on there, but no, I've given up on that platform. I'll be shadow banned if not banned immediately.
Mm.
Because and that's the point though. You basically can't speak your mind if you're on Twitter anymore. So it's gotten to the point where if you go on there, you can't even say what you want without being banned. So I mean, you may as well just leave. I mean that's not sustainable. If they keep doing that, they're gonna die anyway. And yeah, even with the subsidies, they're losing money.
I think I remember it's like the moment that they went public is the moment they started losing money. Like I don't think they've had a single year of, or a single sustained period of growth since they went public.
Oh yeah,
Which company? Oh, Twitter.
Twitter gets subsidized by like I think it's like 250 million a year.
Jesus.
Really?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I could be confusing them with like Facebook or Google because I mean they're all basically the same in my mind. But
Why did you have that much money?
yeah, Twitter has lost like hundreds of millions of dollars in a single day in the last few months. Like that, there's that one day where Twitter lost like $700 million in the stock market because those accounts all left. They claim that it was a bot purge, but in reality, I think that was just their figures coming back for that month because so many people had left them.
And they probably did. They probably did actually purge a few bots, but it was also probably a cover for like,
Yeah.
oh, this person doesn't like. This person disagrees with us. We must get rid of him, and we'll just say he's a bot.
Well, I'm
Or
not
who
saying,
knows?
yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't a bot purge, but I'm relatively certain that most of those people are just leaving because they've either been banned or they're leaving because everyone they actually like got banned and there's nobody left on there they actually want to follow. So,
Probably.
As a moment of delicious irony, 'twas while the topic turned to the futility and desperation and collapsing imminence of Twitter that I shared this on Twitter.
no, I'm relatively certain that at least within the next few years, Twitter is not going to be a thing. I would
Yeah.
say by 2020, but I don't know. That seems more of a seems a bit like an iffy prediction because it could still be around by 2020. It'll just, but for sure, if it's around by 2020, it'll be on its last legs because you
Yeah.
can see the insane demand. Like there are new decentralized browsers coming out every other day. Like Beaker just came out recently as a new browser which operates around blockchain and torrenting.
Oh,
I
fun.
mean, and it's even more private than Brave or DuckDuckGo, and yeah, you get projects like that decentralized alternative to Alexa.
Mm.
Sorry to anyone who has one of those things in their room, though. If you're in our audience, I can't imagine why you'd own one of those things.
I'm sorry, what thing? Like I have dogs barking?
Maybe they wanted a spy in their midst that they might feed them false information.
One of those Amazon Echo devices.
Mm.
Oh.
Basically just a government spy program that you set up in your house. It disguises itself as a digital assistant, but I mean we're on record with the CIA partnering with Amazon and the NSA collecting data given to them by Amazon, which was collected through these Echo devices. So I mean,
Amazon Echo.
yeah, so I mean it's not a stretch to say that it's basically just a government spy because it quite literally is. That's pretty much its main purpose.
Mm.
I still remember, like at one point, if you ask like who is Jesus Christ, they'll answer Jesus Christ is a fictional character. But then, like when you ask it, like who is Muhammad, it would actually give you like a detailed, like explanation.
Interesting.
All right. Well, anyway, I collected some stories this week. So here's something that I'm pretty sure all you guys would find quite interesting. So, of course, everybody was watching the midterms. Even people who don't actually give a fuck about elections were watching midterms. Honestly, I again don't encourage voting, but I gotta say I'm pretty happy with the results just for the future of content creation on this channel. Cortez got elected to Congress. Oh man, that's daily hot takes for the next 2 years at least.
Seems our
Cortez.
investments
Yeah.
in stock mine futures.
I gotta
will
start.
pay off.
Yeah, I gotta create a series on my channel. Cortez Watch. I'm just gonna
If you
respond.
don't mind me,
I'm just gonna respond to everything that she says.
Just make a channel called Cortez Watch to rival Right Wing Watch.
No,
Who's-
okay.
who's Cortez again?
Excuse me.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh,
you said-
that's socialist girl from Seattle. I see.
Yeah, you said her name wrong. Her name is Alexandria Occasional Cortex.
Yeah, there was
Filthy. No, that's wrong. It's Alexandria Ocasio Cortez.
Yeah, yeah, I remember Shane was Shane mentioned her in one of his podcasts, and he said she was that socialist that wanted to introduce all these, socialist, politics into Seattle. And one person said, you do realize that that's going to cost us over $10 trillion, right?
Hey, Lysander Spooner's in chat.
Mm.
What's up,
Hmm.
dude? He asks, "Are traps gay?"
Yes.
Yes, they are.
Yes,
I
they
can
are.
confirm.
Kite, I'm surprised
Traps,
somebody.
especially speed traps, they're totally gay.
I'm surprised somebody of your supreme intellect doesn't already know the answers to that.
Well, to be fair, he did come back from the dead to be in this chat, so perhaps he's still a little woozy from crossing the existential barrier.
All right, but anyway, so while we were all watching the elections, the U.S. Launched some airstrikes on Syria, a city called Deir al-Zawar, and it wasn't just an ordinary airstrike with missiles. No, we used white phosphorate, which
Oh, no.
the U.S. military used white phosphorate. Fucking, but anyway,
Before we go on, we should at least explain what white phosphorus does to people.
I know what it
does
does to
bad shit.
people.
it burns everything that it touches, not just flesh, but buildings, the ground, and it can't be washed off. So
An
Basically, if you want to
incredibly
see
reactive form
if you
of
want to see how
phosphorus.
horrific it is, go play Spec Ops: The Line right now.
Mm.
Or
And-
look up Spec Ops: The Line white phosphorus scene, and then you'll understand. Like, go on YouTube right now.
Yeah, I
It'll
think
only
I think
take
I've
2
seen
minutes.
I've seen that. I've never played the game, but I've seen the.
Oh, I've played the game.
See, phosphorus in its elemental state is group 7, so it's one of the most ionizing things there is. It'll just strip electrons out of everything.
okay,
I'm not sure how
well,
they managed to get it into a solid powdered
well,
state, but
point is, we launched an airstrike on Syria. We killed 26 innocent people. 14 of them were children, and 9 of them were women. Just the article points that out. But I think what's most damning is that this wasn't even rebel occupied territory. This was territory occupied by the SDF, or Syrian Democratic Forces, which is a military ally of the US. So there's this completely unprovoked attack we just launched while everyone was watching the elections, and we used a chemical weapon which is outlawed by the Geneva Convention. So
Oh well, fuck the Geneva Convention. That's what they say.
I'm going to do a little light reading on exactly how white phosphorus works.
The only, I will say. I will say.
Don't hold up the stream on it because it's
No,
not.
I know. It's fine.
I will say this though. I am a little skeptical though because the information does come from the Syrian state media. So
Yeah, but it's been confirmed by the US and the UN as
Oh.
well. So
okay then. Because I was just saying when I first heard the article, it only came from the state media. And if it was there, I'm skeptical. And I said I'm gonna wait till more independent sources.
yeah, no, it's been confirmed
make a
by more than
judgment.
just Syria, and the US has responded. But yeah, no one in the media says anything about it.
It was all just crickets.
Yep, complete
surprised.
crickets. And this is a pretty big news story. Now, here's something that you got to ask yourself is why exactly would the US target this specific area? What about this area makes this such a high priority target for the US? So then you actually do some research into the area which was targeted, pulling up the name again because it's Des Azor, Deir Ezor, sorry. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that name. Deirez ZOR. It is one of the largest cities in Syria, but also it's a major point which the Syrian gas pipeline runs through. It's the last one right before Damascus itself. So I think this is yet another example of the U.S. trying to, create some serious problems for the oil distribution by temporarily occupying a major point in which the oil comes through.
Oh no.
Yeah, you already know where this is
So
going.
reactive.
I mean, that's really the only explanation that I have. I haven't
Well.
seen anything better, and there were no rebels there. It was in SDF occupied territory. There were no militants in the area. The U.S. the U.S. military deliberately chose a time when nobody would, or at least very few people would be paying attention to the actual what was going on in Syria, the current events over there.
So let me get this clear. So the U.S. has confirmed themselves used white phosphorus, right?
Mm.
And isn't the use of white phosphorus a war crime?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Well, what's the UN going
Biochemical
to say
weapon.
about that? What's NATO going to say about that? Any international
Well,
condemnation whatsoever?
Nothing
Well,
so far.
Well, here's another thing, and it's not just because and it's not, I'm just gonna say this. It's not just because the U.S. is, a big superpower, but a common thing that a lot of nations like the U.S. and Russia will do, when they conduct a war crime like that, is, when people bring it up and say, "Hey, you can't use that weapon. That's against the convention." They'll just go, "Oh, we didn't sign the convention, so therefore it's not wrong in our books."
Well,
Well, I
fuck,
mean,
they
the
did
US
war crimes before. This is nothing new.
I mean, the U.S. did sign the convention, didn't it?
I
Mm.
don't know.
It doesn't really matter. They still tortured people to bring information. out
They
of
didn't
people.
sign the. I don't think they signed the convention that bans certain, chemical weapons and cluster bombs. So
No, I don't think they're part of the convention, are they?
Wow.
I'm pretty sure they're not.
they're not part of the. I know that they weren't signers with the cluster bomb, packed in certain chemical weapons like white phosphorus. So
Mm.
Well, it says that someone commented that the Geneva Convention does not prohibit it when it's used in smoke rounds, which, I mean, that's clearly not the case. This was definitely used as an incendiary agent. I mean, why
Yeah.
else would you? You're not going to airstrike smoke bombs.
No.
well, they did a similar thing in World War I with the Hague Convention, because both the Germans and the French were using gas on each other, and when some people said, "Hey, isn't this violating the laws we pushed for?" The British said, "Oh no, it's not breaking the law because you see these rounds, they're not actually, to be aimed at the enemy. You fire them at random and they explode and release gas, but as long as they're not intentionally used on an enemy, then it doesn't count." So they try to technical their way out of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, also, don't forget, we were talking about the U.S. as well, the people that frequently torture people in the CIA and all that shit. With
All right.
kinds of horrific torture methods that I don't even want to name on the stream. But
So, on to the next topic, I suppose. So this is not necessarily related to the specific story that we're going to cover, but it does indeed seem like the state is getting to the point where they've realized that they can't fight cryptocurrency anymore. And why I say that is because I've made a video about this, but for the last month or two, the propaganda regarding cryptocurrency it's not profitable anymore, or it's gonna crash, because it seems that people have simply stopped listening to them on that front, because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Whenever they say that, they always send people forward like Warren Buffett, who don't have a single clue what they're even saying. But or that one guy from Bloomberg who tried to say that Bitcoin's value came from Marxism. I still can't say that with a straight face.
What?
But
What?
There's someone
Yeah,
who's
there was
there's
that.
there's some dumbass who said that Marxism is where cryptocurrency gets its value from.
Yeah, that
No.
uh,
That is so
that
strange.
Bitcoin operated on a Marxist theory of value. That was his exact that was his exact quote.
Does he
Someone literally
even
said
know
that.
how labor theory of value works?
No.
What the fuck?
No,
It's just-
nobody knows how labor theory of value works because it doesn't work.
I think he was just using Marxist as a scary word.
Which is
I-
funny because that came from Bloomberg, not necessarily the rightest of all media outlets.
Mm.
And the people who predicted the Parkland shooting an hour and a half before it happened. Well, not,
Oh yeah,
not the Bloomberg News, not Bloomberg
Yeah.
News, but an
was
organization
it was on Everytown for gun safety.
which is
which
owned
is-
by the Bloomberg organization.
Oh my
Yeah.
lord.
It's a subsidiary of Bloomberg, so.
Mm.
But yeah, that seems more like something you'd hear on like Fox Business or something when they're trying to scare people about Bitcoin. But
Yeah.
anyway, so but basically where we've got to now is where they're trying to put out deliberate misinformation about how blockchains actually what a blockchain is or how cryptography actually works. Which I mean, I'd have to spend an entire stream just going over all the nuances there. But essentially, cryptography is a system in which, I mean, do you guys have an easy explanation for it?
No.
I wouldn't even. I'm not.
Basically,
even
you can
touching that.
you can compact your files to a point where it would be impossible to access them without a certain line of code to be inserted, like to be added into the file, which is known as an encryption key or a receiver key. And I'm probably doing a terrible job of explaining it, but basically, it's impossible to access an encrypted file without an encryption key because it's so compacted that any computer would spend thousands of years trying to decrypt it. One encrypted file, which is even like 1 kilobyte of size. But basically, they've been trying to mislead people on how blockchain and cryptography actually works. And one way they've been doing this is they've been basically throwing around blockchain as a buzzword. And a prime example of this is this article we have today. Thailand wants to use blockchain to catch tax dodgers. Now, anyone who actually knows what blockchain is, or cryptography or cryptocurrencies, knows that this is just complete nonsense. It's impossible to centralize something which operates on a blockchain by design, because what a blockchain is a series of encrypted files which send receiver nodes back and forth to one another, and they, through those receiver nodes, they essentially run a self-sustaining autonomous network which is not actually owned by anybody, and consequently none of the transactions can be interfered with, and the locations of any of the information about these files, their origins, can't be seen by anybody who doesn't actually own one of these files. In this case, it's a coin wallet, or have a receiver key or just a key to engage in these transactions. I'm really not used to explaining this particularly, so I apologize if I'm doing a terrible job. I mean, I may not be. I mean, a lot of the time I feel like I'm doing a terrible job, but then I go back and actually watch it. I watch myself explaining something, and I'm like, oh, I didn't do that bad. I'm just sort of, I'm putting some strain on my brain. But anyway, so it wouldn't be possible to actually collect taxes from any system which operates under blockchain, because it's not possible for the state to actually monitor any transactions occurring within a blockchain system, because it would be impossible for an outside entity to get in, essentially, unless they had the wallet ID, the exact time that each given transaction occurred, and what amount. And essentially, the only way they'd know that is if that information was given to them. But if you actually go on to read this article, what they're describing is not a blockchain system. What they're describing is a government-established database where the government monitors the tax for every single transaction that occurs within the country. So this isn't a blockchain. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Well, you said it yourself, they're just trying to scare people. And I think it's going to be their new tactic coming forward.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. They're going to try and scare people. They're going to try and mislead people into thinking that blockchain is something that it isn't. Either they're going, and how I think they're going to approach that is they're either going to try and convince people that blockchain's not as secure as it actually is, or that it's some sort of tax scheme by the government, or like a pyramid scheme or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, the point I wanted to make is that it looks like what they're trying to do is scare normies into thinking that, oh, the government now knows how to get into the blockchain. They're now watching you they're now watching your blockchain transactions, and now you have to basically pay taxes. So they're trying to scare people into voluntarily disclosing to them the information that they want. And I think one thing you're going to see is that you're going to be required to give the government things like your wallet IDs and stuff like that. And they're going to say, like, you're required to do this by law. And they might actually pass laws to do that. When in fact, if you refuse to do so, that law is going to be completely unenforceable. But there will be a whole bunch of stupid normies who might have bought like $50 worth of fragments of a Bitcoin or something and think like, oh, okay. More importantly, however, things that someone needs to know, and I think this is by far the most important thing, is that if Thailand was telling the truth about what they were doing, and that they did actually have a system for tax collection on blockchain, all that would mean is that how much taxes they are collecting from other people will be completely encrypted. Which
it's not it's not a
whoa,
tax.
holy crap! What the hell was that?
What was what?
What?
We didn't hear anything.
I just heard screeching.
Oh no!
I didn't hear anything.
Okay, well, that's not what it is. It's not a tax collection system for cryptocurrencies. It's a tax collection system for all transactions in general.
Yeah. My point is that, like, that tax collection, if they were telling the truth and it was actually on blockchain, which it's not, but suppose that they were telling the truth about that, all that would mean is that tax collection is encrypted, which it doesn't need to be. I don't know why they would think they would need to do that, but there you go.
Well, I mean, ironically, that would just make it, so the government would be less transparent. but anyway, no, for any normies who might be watching, no, if in the future the government is making laws which tell you that you have to give them your wallet ID, no, you don't. Literally nothing will happen to you if you don't give them your wallet ID, because they're not even going to know that you have a wallet. They're not going to know how much cryptocurrency you have. They're not going to know anything, because they have no way of knowing that. It's technically impossible for them to do that. So
They could always just shoot you.
I mean, we have but they would have to know that you had a wallet first. I mean, they could just shoot you, but I mean, why would you even be in that situation if they had no way of possibly knowing that you even had a wallet in the first place?
I don't know. A
Okay,
couple of weeks ago, I saw someone get shot for jaywalking.
My point is that there are countries that have already outlawed cryptocurrencies, as in you
I see.
straight up can't trade in cryptocurrencies. China, Russia, Colombia are a few examples, and these countries have some of the largest crypto markets in the world. China, in particular, trades in like $2 billion US worth of cryptocurrencies through just their two active trading websites. It's not these laws are not enforceable, and governments know it.
Mm.
They have a
Yeah.
law and they just can't do anything.
Completely unenforceable. You're right.
That's really.
And
that's
we have demonstrable examples of this too. So, if the government tells you to hand them over your wallet, they hand them your wallet. They don't even know you have one, so you could straight up lie to their face. They wouldn't know.
Yeah. I'll be all,
not so number
what
one.
wallet? You know? And then they'll probably stick a gun in my face and I'll just stare at them and hope they go away.
Well, I mean, if they're that hyped up, you're gonna die no matter what.
Yeah,
Yes.
Unfortunately.
I know. But I might take one of them with me. Of the three that I'm imagining.
Well,
Now,
well, what you do is you put on blackface and then you just walk towards them menacingly. I mean, you're in the UK, so that would work.
Not for very much longer, I hope.
Well, remember that gif of the one migrant who visibly unarmed but was fighting off like 10 police officers just by walking towards them menacingly. So all you have to do is just take a few like spend some time in a tanning booth or somewhere.
Or get some
And-
shoe polish.
You get also get some shoe polish, make yourself, or just go live in Italy for a year. You'll get extra greasy there, and then you'll be menacing police officers in no time.
I don't know. Italy frightens me.
It's
It looks like a
incredibly frightening.
boot.
Italy is incredibly frightening, but if you live there for a year, you'll probably become as greasy as they are.
It looks like a boot. You don't understand.
I know it looks like a boot.
all right, but anyway, on
I
to
am-
the next story. So
Yeah, why am I so down on Italians? It makes no sense.
I'm surprised I'm not very chatty.
I
Normally-
barely said anything.
I'm trying to
normally-
get on to the
normally-
next story here.
Yeah, what is it?
Right.
So the next story is that Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the person who actually invented the World Wide Web while he was trying to fix a problem with digital black holes, despite the statists falsely trying to claim that the government created the World Wide Web. No, it was actually created by a private innovator, a scientist to be more specific.
Yay!
Whoever is
Science.
playing like a video or something, stop it because it's distracting me. But anyway, so he created a Magna Carta for the web, is what he's calling it, a Magna Carta.
That sounds
Now-
really super gay.
Yeah, so basically now there's a Internet Bill of Rights, a proposed one that a bunch of these bootlickers are getting behind. And for those of you who don't know, this is of course in relation to the problem of censorship online. But these companies are all funded by the state, all subsidized, and there are regulations in place from countries like Germany, which keep competitors out of the market, that all these social media companies, not just the ones that exist, but also the social media companies have to abide by laws in other countries as well. The up and coming ones. So, I mean, this is why we need to decentralize the internet. So you don't really have to. But
Wasn't there already something called the Fairness Doctrine?
yeah, this is
Work?
basically. Well, we'll get to that, but so the Magna Carta for the internet proposes that of all things, the government should essentially force service providers at gunpoint to provide their service to people. And on top of this, Facebook and Google have voluntarily signed on to this Magna Carta and are openly supporting it. So, red flags flying.
Oh man.
Can
But
you
if-
just?
What was that?
Sorry, you were gonna say something.
Well, no. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna tell them to not. Could you just not have censorship just once in your freaking lives?
It would be nice.
Oh, but someone think about the children.
But no.
No.
Dude, no. But anyway, if you actually, but it's that one point in the Magna Carta, the forced sharing of infrastructure. Well, you know that basically is a low key euphemism for the FCC nationalizing the internet, and that's why Google and Facebook are supporting it. I mean, we've seen previous bills proposed that explicitly state that the FCC should nationalize the internet to try and combat fake news and stop these companies from censoring people. So that's the consistent theme in all of these so-called Internet Bill of Rights regulations, is that all of them want the FCC to nationalize the internet.
Oh boy.
And all of them are also funded and supported by Facebook, Twitter, and Google, who are also being subsidized by the government. And it makes you wonder, why do people like Donald Trump and why do all of these senators attack these companies and claim that this is they need regulation when they know goddamn motherfucking well that they're the ones causing the problem.
Well, you already know that they're the ones causing the problem.
Yeah,
as
they
circular as that
know.
is.
They know that the problem is not there's a lack of regulation. It's actually the opposite. It's because of their regulations. It's because of their subsidies. It's because they've got groups like the Atlantic Council directly telling them to censor people. So you got Trump funding them. You got the senators, whatever. Point is that he's basically responsible for every bill that they pass. Every bill has to go by his desk, so he knows full well what companies are being subsidized and what aren't.
Oh yeah.
And this whole Internet Bill of Rights fiasco is nothing except one freaking gigantic government subsidy to Google, to Facebook, to Twitter. So if you like Google, Facebook, Twitter, big tech having a monopoly, well, now it's going to be literally illegal for them to have competition.
Huh.
Yeah. So and it's not only is it going to be illegal for them to have competition, but they're also going to continue being funded even if literally nobody is using them. So if you think they suck now, holy hell, just wait until the FCC nationalizes social media.
Yeah, and so I was about to say, what also really baffles my mind is how, and this kind of goes to the net neutrality, is how so many famous YouTubers and all that are all for the government taking over, control of the internet, and I'm like, why?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, it's really strange, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're on the same crowd that it's like we got to stop the DMCA and all that. Then it's like, yeah, but you're also for net neutrality, which basically is saying, which basically, if the net neutrality advocates get their way, like you said, the FCC is more or less gonna nationalize the internet, and only selected companies are gonna have free streaming and all that, while independent people are basically gonna be outlawed.
Yeah. Well,
I don't understand how
I
someone,
mean,
like, could
that's
get
the
in
thing.
forever.
Usually they're like, oh, free markets. Free markets are good. Well, quote unquote free markets. I mean, they're all for the use of government force to keep competitors down, and regulations to keep competitors out of the market.
And you can also hear even some of Sargon's earlier videos where he talks about, yeah, free market is great for providing products, goods, and services more efficiently than the government, but I still support universal healthcare because only government can provide this particular product or service.
That's why I know it's a little off topic. That's why I facepalm when I see Sargon of Akkad, because that guy is so intelligent and he's got all these really good points, and he talks very well about reasoning, but then once you bring up economics, he's like, he's like well, I can see what libertarians are going for. I can see the need for a free market, but we still need things like universal healthcare and all that.
But it's not just that. Look at how he's been handling this debate. I mean, he doesn't even, acknowledge the counter argument.
Yeah.
I mean, he just completely just is making shit up.
Yeah.
Actually, name a libertarian who's said, "Oh, we should just I like the way things are. This is good. They should ban people." Like, name somebody who said that.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a little bit more aimed at Kit, because I'm pretty sure, because I've had people from other countries do this. Especially when the topic of things like healthcare is, whenever we criticize, how like Europe doesn't at all, that they're like, well, did you know the U.S. does this and that? And what I like to respond with them, it's like, yeah, I don't like it any more than you do.
Dude, I know, it sucks.
See, the problem with the United States, and I've actually told this to people, is that we're trying to mimic what you guys are doing. We're trying to, because the EU.
Why would you do that? It doesn't work.
I mean, the EU more or less has already kind of nationalized the internet on their half, because they recently passed that law and all that. And like I said, the US is.
And cut out.
Yeah, what happened?
Signal issues, I think.
Did you just lose his train of thought?
We didn't hear the end of his sentence, that's all.
Oh, I was just saying that, the European Union's already more or less nationalized their internet, and the United States is trying to do the same.
Well, we can look at what's happening in the EU, and just recently, freaking, oh man, Article 13 got passed.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
It has the potential to.
Yeah. See, you're not going
not in a
to.
jar.
See, that's the problem. Is these people acknowledge that decentralization is the answer, and it's a pretty simple solution to see. You need competition for these entities, because otherwise nothing is going to incentivize them to actually serve you. In fact, they could just straight up cut out the internet altogether. So that's why we need platforms which by design are decentralized. We need things like Fnet, Skywire, Brave. We need we need social media outlets like Steemit, BitChute, DTube, platforms which literally don't even actually have a host server, are as decentralized as possible, because on top of just this proving to be the self-sufficient model proving to be more efficient and more competitive, it's also if it can be centralized, it will be centralized, or at least there'll be attempts to centralize it. And once that happens, you get things like what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Well, I had a different take on Article 13, which I mentioned in my video, in that one of two things are going to happen that are not mutually exclusive. Part of the provisions of Article 13, which is actually Article 11, but I digress, is the link tax, where media platforms like, say, Reddit, are going to be charged a certain amount of money for having a link hosted on their website from a major media news outlet. Now, this would actually be hilarious if this turned around and simply incentivized users to post links from sites that didn't require websites to pay them link taxes.
Yeah, if people just started copy pasting articles verbatim and then posting them on an alternative website,
Or
which was basically just the same thing. That's
Or
I
you
think,
Yeah, and then they're gonna pass a rule saying you can't copy a link from a non-taxable site, and then when that doesn't work, they're gonna do something else, and finally the EU's gonna do one of two things that
Dude needs to fix his internet.
of the European Union.
It's just
You cut
gonna
out.
keep getting regulated
Again.
and regulated and
Oh.
regulated, and it's still going to keep getting blamed on the free market.
Yeah.
pretty much. It's just gonna they've already tried this in Spain, if I recall correctly, of a link tax program, not the full Article 13, but just the link tax, and it ended up driving freaking Google to suspend their news service from the country. So I mean, this is
Sounds
going
about
to.
right.
So you're pretty much going to see
hilarious.
the absolute just dissolution of this, and if this is also going to incentivize the rise of blockchain services, since that kind of stuff is going to be completely unenforceable on
But
those.
yeah, the skeptics aren't as bad about this, but I'm just getting so fucking tired of that argument. The
Yeah.
government doing something in response to something that the government previously did, which was enacted because of something that the government previously did,
Yeah.
and just goes on and on. And no matter what, this time, no matter how regulated it is, the detractors are gonna say, "Look what the free market did!
Oh
Look
yeah.
what it did, Mom!"
Well, in fairness, it's not their fault. They've been brainwashed and lied to their whole lives. It's
Yep.
difficult to break that kind of programming.
Yeah, actually, funny in bringing that argument because I remember seeing one time I saw this funny political cartoon and it showed two kids in a daycare. One's wearing a shirt that's labeled government, the other one's labeled free market, and the one labeled government is holding a crayon behind his back, and there's like a mess all over a wall that's labeled the economy, and the babysitter goes, "Who did this?" And the baby that's labeled government points to the baby that's labeled free market, who's completely clean and doesn't have a crayon on him, and he goes, "He did it." That's what they do.
Yeah,
Yay!
that's very accurate.
I mean, a perfectly good example that Shane brought up is HMOs. Everyone says, I hate HMOs. They make healthcare so bureaucratic and expensive. It's all those healthcare insurance faults. Completely ignoring that HMOs were created by law in the HMO Act in the 1970s by the U.S. government.
Yeah, if you go back to even before the earliest regulations on the healthcare industry, back to the early 1900s, because the first regulation was licensing laws, which didn't come around till 1918. Funnily enough, was implemented based on the request of the Carnegie Foundation. So,
Yep,
but anyway. You used to be able to pay for healthcare out of pocket. In fact, the insurance industry didn't even exist until until 1925, and that was because that specific regulation shot up the prices so much because of the artificial scarcity of doctors it created.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, that was kind of the point.
What was this regulation?
I don't remember the exact name, but it was lobbied
Hmm.
for directly by an organization that had just founded itself. You might
The
have heard of
AMA.
it. I was just going to say that name. They call themselves the American Medical Association.
Oh
They're the
no!
Yeah, you know
so
who
they
they
could
are.
have direct. Yeah, so they could
And
have
they-
direct.
And their exact argument was that healthcare was too cheap and they weren't making enough money. You see, being a doctor is such a dignified position that they shouldn't deign to be at the whim of working class poor peasants.
Mm.
And so we got to have
Wow.
these licensing, not got to have these licenses, not because they're we need the government to make sure of the quality of doctors, but because we need to create an artificial scarcity.
Mm. The way they talk is the way people think we talk, but don't talk, because that would be awful.
So, yeah. Well, I mean, the 1920s were different times back then, I-
Yeah.
This was just like 10 years removed from the eugenics movements.
Mm. Mm.
The free market, the Great Depression.
And healthcare wasn't that bad at the time either
Oh,
during the
yeah.
1910s. At that time, advanced germ theory had existed for a few decades. So
Yeah.
scientists were working with curing diseases at the time. I think tuberculosis had basically been cured by 1910.
I think we
Um,
had a few vaccines at that point,
Yeah.
early vaccines. Anyway.
A world with Article 13 is a much worse world than a internet without net neutrality.
Since
Just
it
back
was
on that
atomic
conversation.
war.
I
Okay.
posted a link to a video that I think is fairly accurate of what
I
an
mean,
Article
my-
13
my-
world looked like.
yeah, I
you
mean, my
you
internet.
posted a link. Now you got to pay up.
I mean, my internet speeds increased by quite a bit since net neutrality. Since we got rid of net neutrality.
Hooray!
ISPs have been
Yay.
much more
Yeah.
competitive.
Which is good.
I
Time
know,
Warner
and
Cable,
no one
aka
cares
Spectrum, still
anymore.
sucks.
No.
I mean,
No,
there
these-
are some areas which still have monopolistic structures, like Seattle being a great example. They have a Comcast monopoly because of zoning laws. But I keep
Hi.
mentioning that.
Kitty
God
cat.
damn it, we need to like crop some people out of this stream. But
You know,
anyway,
it's funny that you bring up how well everything's going post net neutrality, because a couple of people I've heard name dropping Ajit Pai as being like evil or something. I don't remember the context, but it's like, dude, look at the internet. Just it has improved even in the short amount of time we've not had this.
Actually, on the subject of internet and all that and internet laws, I was watching a South Park episode which was making fun of the cable monopoly and all that, and basically the cable guys were pleasing themselves every time the customers were complaining. But
yeah,
it was a funny episode, but they left out one thing that could have been there is where Comcast goes, "Oh, so you don't like our service, and you can't get DirecTV or and you can't get DirecTV. Well, why don't you form your own independent cable company? Oh, that's right, it's against the law." That is
I gotta watch that episode now.
that is true. That is true. If you try to start your own independent, cable or dish network service provider, the FCC is going to be knocking on your door saying, "Yeah, we're throwing you in jail because you didn't spend $200 billion on like 25 different permits you don't need.
Yeah,
So you're not licensed."
exactly.
It's funny because no one even cares about net neutrality anymore. It's literally just
yeah.
it's
Nobody
kinda-
says anything about it now. It's hilarious.
The Twitter
Yeah.
feed is dead. It's like filled with things from a year ago. No one
Yeah.
cares anymore because they know they're wrong and they don't want to acknowledge it.
Yeah, the world is gonna end without net neutrality. Oh shit! What
It
was
got
that?
better.
People like me. I got upgraded from a 2G internet to a 5G internet, and the price of my internet bill went down like $30. Thanks,
Wow.
abolishing. Thanks to thanks for abolishing net neutrality.
Thanks, government. for
My
getting
world
out of the
really
way.
ended. My world
Yeah.
really ended, everyone.
Now, if only they would do the same thing with copyright.
The Magna Carta of the internet. That's something I heard the first time I got in the stream.
Yeah.
I first watched the Magna Carta
It-
of the
it-
internet. That's that's so ironic of a name. It's like because
Yeah.
the Magna Carta was started to, help
Limit
due
the
process for people.
Yeah, the Internet
then-
Bill of Rights is also a really ironic name because
Yeah.
the Bill of Rights, at least in the American Constitution, was based on classical liberal principles. So, negative rights, explicitly defining things that the government couldn't do to you because they were things that you inherently had. So, a Bill of Rights can't give you anything that you don't already have, at least according to the view of people like Thomas Jefferson or Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah,
Fun fact.
moreover, it just the entire just calling it a Magna Carta of the internet. That's ironic because that's what you'd eventually have to need after you instill that quote Magna Carta. You'd need due process for the internet because the government would be just spying on you and just screwing you over in different ways.
And actually, I was about to say this earlier about the Bill of Rights. Here's a fun fact: one of our founding fathers, who's considered, great, Alexander Hamilton, the school teachers love. He didn't want a Bill of Rights in the U.S. Constitution. He fought.
I'm shocked.
From what I've read, he fought it tooth, fang, and nail, saying, "I do not want a Bill of Rights in the Constitution." And the only reason was because Thomas Jefferson and various others flat out said, "We are not signing the U.S. Constitution unless we have a Bill of Rights." And because they were popular leaders, he had no choice.
The Constitution should have never existed. I'm sorry.
I've already stated that the U.S. Constitution, at least the Bill of Rights, Republican democracy as it exists, is basically a propaganda construct to convince people that they're free so that they won't revolt against the state and they won't realize how badly they're getting fucked. And this is evident because, the people who signed the Declaration of Independence were still alive by the time that the state had gotten way bigger than it was when they were being taxed without representation by Britain. In fact, one of the first things that Washington did while in office is he proposed like a 50% tariff on foreign imports. That is
Wow.
ridiculous.
And that's when the U.S. entered a depression. Thanks, tariffs.
Yay.
And just a little bit.
So that's what caused the depression.
Well, there were a lot of things that caused the Great Depression.
That's not the Great Depression. We're talking about George Washington.
It was the depression that immediately followed the
American
Revolution.
An awful lot.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because a lot of people like to say, well, the government had to intervene in the 1929 stock market crash because it was worse than normal. Completely
caused it.
Yeah, I know. And not to mention, they also ignored that there was a stock market crash in 1920, 1907, 1897. I think there was one in 1850, and the U.S. didn't fall into complete economic collapse. And the reason why was because the government politicians, in a rare moment of sanity, eased off the economy, and the economy recovered on its own. Then, of course, the government said, okay, economy's all good. Now let's go back to regulating and taxing. Yep.
Pretty much. If I recall correctly, following the stock market crash of 1929, you had an unemployment rate of around 9%.
Yeah.
And then that was pretty bad, and there was a significant shock to the economy, but that was slowly improving. It was only after the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act that things started to get really bad.
It's like you beat your horse to make it move until it stops moving, and then you nurse it back to health only to start beating it again.
The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act could have... it probably was argued that it literally caused the worldwide depression at that point because no one was getting any goods. And at that point, almost no one was doing well, so...
Yeah. And then there was, I think it was Massachusetts, basically. The federal government imposed a tax on alcohol. That's the next big thing they did, which started the Whiskey Rebellion of 1792. And George Washington openly led that army against that farmers' revolt, and he fought them. He fought them into submission. So that's something you don't really hear about a lot in the textbooks, but I'm sure some of you are familiar with that Emperor Washington storyline in Assassin's Creed. Well, a few people know it's actually reality. It's based on reality.
Oh yeah. If I recall correctly, I don't know if it was Benjamin Franklin or someone else. There was one person that, in the early days of President Washington's, his presidency, instead of calling him Mr. President, his assistant insisted that everyone call him His Excellency, and he would always say that. And actually, it was George Washington that said, "Please stop calling me that because I don't want to be a dictatorial monarch."
Even though that's what he was.
Yeah.
Well, he was minus the monarch part, but he was everything else.
The irony.
I really need to work on my history.
Well, By the way, Kit, here's a funny thing about the American Revolutionary War. I was watching a video by Top Tens, and he was discussing the American Revolutionary War, and the thing that makes me facepalm and cringe so hardly was that he said, well, the truth is the British had every right to tax the American colonies because they were at war with France and Canada, and they spent a lot of money and all that. And I posted on the comments saying, oh, okay, so the American colonies had to pay because the King of England and the King of France couldn't get along.
It's a complete non sequitur.
Yeah, it's
I mean, it's like, does that mean that any amount of theft is justified if I get into a fight with someone else? Like, can I tax you because I get into a fist fight with my neighbor?
It's like, well, what could have the King of England done with France stumbling into Canada? I would have been like,
hey, you no longer have property rights because you got in a fight with that one kid back when you were in 4th grade.
Yeah, and
either way, there was really no justified actor in the entirety of the Revolutionary War period, because you have these same people who make a plan to try and limit the size of the government, right? With the Articles of Confederation, which meant, the state couldn't tax, it couldn't create a standing army, and it really had no federal power.
The biggest.
All right, so I'm ending the stream because we've gone on for like an hour.
Okay.
You guys got any final thoughts?
Yes,
Now,
we should.
did Florida Man?
Briefly mention the Florida.
There is no Florida Man story this week because all the stories are pretty fucking horrible. The ones we could find, at least.
I saw something about an assault with a tractor.
That sounds more western than Florida, Ian, or whatever. What's
Florida Man does not respect regional boundaries.
Oh, Kit, this isn't a Florida Man story, but this is something that did happen. I'm pretty sure you heard of it. There was a guy that was in the UK who was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon. And what was his deadly weapon? A potato peeler.
I know. I heard about that. It was about 3 months ago, I want to say. Maybe more.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what the fuck is happening?
All right,
in my
so
country?
if you want to show your channels, go ahead because I'm ending the stream.
My channel's dead. Please subscribe.
Wait, your channel's not dead. Is it still up?
No, I'm just saying based on viewership.
Yeah.
Oh,
think-
thank
I'm
God.
not-
I never
yeah.
upload. Please subscribe.
Oh yeah.
I was about to fucking freak out. They took your channel down. That's
They probably are trying to. Twitter already took
Yeah.
my account. So.
Because they're jealous. A 13-year-old knows more about the world than they do.
yeah, and they're. I mean, I've
I'm
proven
jealous.
that they're throttling my viewers, probably my subscribers too. I've noticed.
You know what, Atomic? If I had enough money, they should do. If I had the money and the resources to do it, we should make a parody like that. Do a parody of "Are You Smarter Than a 5th Grader?" where it's you and random status and all that.
Isn't it hilarious? Hold on. Isn't it hilarious though? Like it really should tell you how absolutely fucking terrified they are of the anarchists. That a stream with like 50 viewers at its peak gets their viewers throttled and gets censored by the YouTube's algorithms. We get copyright strikes.
Yeah.
We get copyright strikes for content other channels haven't gotten strikes for.
Oh
Yeah.
Which is
my Venezuelan
highly
video
suspect.
got taken down.
Oh great.
No.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah,
I'm
why?
tempted to just upload it again.
Yeah,
just a big
what
middle
is it
finger
about
to-
these couple thousand subscriber channels? These what is it about us that's so terrifying to them? It
The
can't possibly
Because we
can't,
know how to destroy
it can't
them.
possibly be that we completely shatter every
Yeah.
status delusion that exists, even the controlled opposition skeptic ones.
Yeah, SO actually SO, I saw that story one time. I don't know what happened. I don't know who it was or not. It wasn't a political guy, but it was a guy who was getting a lot of copyright strikes and all that, and he was noticing something funny about his videos. His videos weren't being taken down, but like he had like 20K likes and like 100 or so dislikes, but he noticed the viewing was only in like the hundreds or so, and it's like, what's
Yeah.
going on?
That's
Yeah.
exactly what's happening to my videos. My recent video has like
Yeah.
650 views and it has 100 likes. Which, like, if you actually look at channels which aren't being censored, usually after getting like
YouTube
5 to
couldn't,
6,000.
yeah, they couldn't.
Dude, stop trying to stop talking over me. It's fucking making me lose my train of thought. But yeah, usually it's channels that get like 5 to 6,000 views per video, get like 100 likes on their videos.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, maybe I suppose it is possible you're getting an anomalous, an abnormally high like to view ratio, but it does seem likely that they're somehow doing something to the view count, which is
Well,
I mean, your
weird.
videos
I've caught
are
them
extremely
doing
hard
it.
to not put the thumb
Oh.
up, so.
Well, all right
Yeah.
then.
I've posted proof in my Discord server, and I'm gonna make a video about it shortly. Well, I'm probably gonna mention it in a video, but I'm not making another video on it because I've already exposed them previously.
Oh, have you done a video on transhumanism yet? Because
Okay, and end
No,
the live
I
stream.
think
It's on the list of priorities though, because
Yeah.
it's something that I talk about a lot, and as is, a lot of people, like, I'll bring up topics like resurrecting the dead, post-humans, growing people in jars, and people hear that in the stream. Just I seemingly bring that up out of nowhere, and they're like, "What the fuck?"
We are going to become
What's so
space
illogical about
marines.
that is a wonderful assessment of how the world should operate. I'm just saying.
I hope we can just create Doom
become
Guy.
as gods. Become as
yes,
gods.
yes, Caesar. Yes, Caesar. I completely agree with you. We should just create Doom Guy.
I will post. People are asking for an invite link to my Discord server in the stream chat, so I will go ahead and post one.
Yay.
And then with
So,
that growing Doom Guy, I'm just going to use him as a security guard.
Yeah, but with that, I'm going to end the stream.
Check out
everybody-
my channel, Filthy Heretic.
and we'll see you all next
I'm
time.
14.
Go to my Twitter.